Hello, everybody. Welcome to our art economics lecture, last session. We are with Zeynep Fadıllıoğlu. She's a famous designer, interior decorator, a creative woman we are very proud of. Thank you very much for being with us today. I hope our guests will enjoy as well. I already sent you some questions, but we can divert it. Maybe briefly tell us your journey. How you started all this. It's a beautiful world you created.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy with you, doctor and professor, actually. And I'm very happy to be a part of education program because I had a chance in the past, maybe 8 years ago, to be 14 years part of Bilgi modular master program-ish course in design management, and it was wonderful years for me. I have started with a British schooling in English school, English high school in Turkey, and then I went first to computer science in Sussex University, but I didn't graduate. I went off to crash schooling, Control Data Institute for Computer Programming. And then just to be able to have some fun, actually, in those years, I wasn't happy to come back from a lovely city like London. So I decided to study. And my father said, you have gone too mathematical oriented and you are lacking your polish, actually. So you need some art study. And so I went to Inchville School of Design, which was a very practical school, very interesting. And we were studying architecture, painting. This was history of art and history of design, architectural painting, furniture, textile, ceramics, glass, and these were all in Victoria and Albert Museum, in National Gallery, like Picasso, Da Vinci, and so on, right in the premises, Da Vinci and Renoir and everything. We studied with the curators, and this made a whole horizon change in my worlds. And we studied architecture in Sir Christopher Wren's buildings and so on. So this opened my horizon, and I learned where to look for what I was looking for, actually, how to search for my what I wanted to create, really. And computers gave me another dimension. In the beginning, I worked in computers. I was one of the first 12 systems analysts in Turkey. And I worked in programming and systems analysis and designed many computer software programs at the time. But then when I got married to a man who was in restaurant, club, and catering business, our works clashed. So I couldn't continue in him working night till morning, me working till nighttime. We weren't seeing each other. And so I was the one making less money. So I decided to quit. And I worked in his business as co-manager. That gave me another side of perspective to life, probably. And then I found myself suddenly first designing weddings. There was no company or anything like that designing weddings or events and so on. So I was the one who started it, and I designed tables, Christmas decoration, whatever came up at the time. And then whenever he was designing a new restaurant, when there was enough a budget, he would commission someone like from London, Nigel Coates, who was the world's one or two, like Philip Stark, top architects. And whenever there wasn't enough means, like a summer place or so, I was the one to finish it off. And so I came from scratch working in the field, really, layering one after the other the levels. And my history of art background gave a certain dimension to all of this. I always worked with a technical architect, but somebody that I could change and somebody that I could affect, because I had my own vision and I had my own desires. But actually, in time, I learned that you cannot design with your own likes and you have to be able to design for the clients using or
This is
for the
very
person.
interesting. That makes the difference between actually the designer and the artist. Artist.
Exactly. Yeah. Completely that, yes. We didn't know, of course, it was very beginning of all this era. And so, I mean, I was thinking creating something beautiful was enough, but no, you had to change it so many times. And in time, of course, when you work for a premises, you had to change things because if they knew what they were doing, they were telling you how to do things and give you an outline, which is right now a job like the creative director or the managing director does it in some companies. But that's the most important part of leadership of design, really. Otherwise, there are so many designers in the world and so many designs that haven't been fulfilled because they weren't feasible or they weren't actually answering the questions for that specific job or the product to be done, really. So
Now,
this is a short version of my journey, and I grew up on the Bosphorus front. This is important. I'm not because of my background, but when I grew up, the town of Yeniköy in Istanbul was a mixed town, like what United States is calling itself right now. You know, many different religions, many different understandings living together. One of my neighbors was Armenian, one of my neighbors was Greek, and 60% was Christian of Yeniköy, and 40% was Muslim. So there was an incredible dynamic amongst cultures. We had church bells at the same time as ezan, which made it all the more beautiful. And this, of course, added, I was open to watching probably this, then I didn't know. Now, looking back, I understand that this all gave me another kind of polish maybe, or layer in my chemistry, let's say.
very, very interesting. Now, my first question is the following. According to you, design is on the rise in Turkey. Do you think that that can create a potential in terms of new jobs, new firms, new brands for Turkey? How do you observe this current environment related to design schools, students in design programs in Istanbul, in Turkey in general?
I think we have to look at different parts of the design. Fashion design has been, Turks have been interested in for a long time, but it's not yet where it should be, because that's in one of your questions, copying kind of question. And in the beginning, like Rıfat Özbek, who came out, happens to be my cousin, or Hüseyin Çağlayan, but they were both educated in London and British government backed them up. So this is a whole different story. Now we have a couple of very good designers that are also in the world known, but we cannot say that we have enough, because there's been a certain time of where the government supported and they have been continuing. But what is not exactly right in our country is with the change of governments, the people tend to support the people they like. Instead of that, I think it has to be consistent and it has to be a state policy that above any government, the design has to be fed by how do you say, sharp eyes of different fields. Like me, myself, I was first elected designer of the year by Andrew Martin in London. And their committee was from Andrew Lloyd Webber, who was in music the best at the time, or Anushka Hempel, who was a great decorator, and then some architects, but from all different walks of life in arts, really. There were many people looking at different kind of sides. I think this is more important than just known people heading who to support. So fashion has had more way in it, but product design, or let's say industrial design, I think isn't where it should be yet. Government is trying to back for a while interior design, and especially if you have shops outside of Turkey, or if you're selling your creative thoughts, which is the most important, because it's actually it looks valueless, but it's the most valuable thing. Then government tries to back your shop or the people that are working for you, but it's not enough. It has to be, but this is of course something that we have to discuss, because it's affected by the ups and downs of Turkish economy. Unfortunately, otherwise we cannot compare with Italy, or we cannot compare with some countries where there's a lot of money behind it. Like Italy, for example, is getting a fair site. Even in a jewelry fair, Italy has a fair where just for Italy, in the World Jewelry Fair, for example, fairs for design. They are trying to make known anything wherever is possible. So it's not that they go for maison objet, or that they go for their own design fairs. They go for everything, from jewelry, from clothes to everything, and show their all fields design. I think ours has to be the same. But at the same time, our policy has to be defined too. What are we? And how creative are we? And how, sellable creative are we? How recognizable, how, a product has to find the right buyers if it is the right product. I think there's sometimes a gap happening in our field. I don't know.
Creating new brands is our weak point. It's not easy to create a brand, and so what is the role? I want to switch to my the other question related to counterfeiting, copying. What is the role of this industry? I think it's getting more and more a burden on designers, on young designers in Turkey.
First,
the leather industry, for example. We can have many brands.
Yeah, but leather industry, I think, is one of the industries that people are trying a lot in. I know some very hardworking ladies who have been working in this industry, and I find the way they work very interesting. I don't know the details, but I see their work, and I see how they, also they back it up with advertisements and everything in all the right magazines and connections, because
the bag brand Manu Atelier.
That's very interesting. There are a couple of bag brands actually selling in Browns and so on. Yeah, they are very good. But as fashion is not exactly my line, I only know it through eyesight. But I think some brands have done a lot in leather. Also in leather clothing, I think we are not leather producers. We are importing the leather and then shaping it and selling it. We are maybe interesting also in other fields like marble, carpet, um, and textiles, some textiles, but we are not good enough in all of them, let's say, because copying, unfortunately, like we should take Japan, for example. Japan took for years photographs and then they created their own brand, their own look, Japanese look, I mean, their own kind of sophistication. Like my company, I mean, or let's say me, because I started alone as Zeynep Fadıllıoğlu, mine was a reaction at the time to people who spoke for modernism in Turkey. And they, I think, misunderstood what it was. Modernism was wonderful, okay, but I mean, it didn't mean that everything done in the West should be copied by us forever, you know, because they do it best, you know. We should, I think, learn from it and move on with our own identity. That's why Zeynep Fadıllıoğlu design, by reaction to all of this, we came out with designs from our part of the world. It's not only Ottoman. I was talking about Selçuks 25 years ago when nobody even mentioned it, because 12th century, and it's the purest form of stone using, for example. Divri Mosque is something spectacular, I mean, craftsmanship. And we have neglected all of this. It's not only just that, copper, this glass, whatever, but all of this we didn't recognize, and we didn't even look at the East. We only kept on looking at the States or Paris, this, that, and tried to create something that looked modern, which was always very near to their products. So we could never get anywhere. And unfortunately, many teachers also led their students in this way. And this kills creativity at the end, because if you copy too much, you lose your own identity and your own vision of looking, because I believe everybody can have creativity in some kind of field that they love. If they are open-minded and if they can be led well from very young age, it's preferably, later on as well. And we are trying to do that with workshops and so on in our offices since many years. I'm in this business since 1982. And the main thing is looking at different kinds of beauty and also aesthetics. I mean, it can be also maybe not beautiful in some sense, but not beautiful today might be very beautiful in after 10 years, if you can use it in some kind of chaos maybe, but harmony of a chaos. I find it interesting. I find that the younger you are, the more chance you have to have your own identity.
Exactly. Now, you said younger. Now, the primary school education, and when we look at the curriculum, state primary school education, we see the role of, or the hours of artistic courses getting diminished. Yes. So I think that's the time to start discovering all these things. What do you think about education, design education at very low ages, young ages?
Very important.
How to introduce, and have you ever cooperated in such a project? Have you worked with kids, you know, in design projects with kids?
Except my own grandchildren, I haven't. Now I'm learning a lot from them. I haven't, but I'm an observer. I observe everything around me, and I travel a lot. Of course, not anymore, but unfortunately of today's situation. But I mean, like I've been to India maybe 30 times, and I started going there 25 years ago. But the same, for example, in German art galleries, I used to always see 2-year-old people, 3-year-old children lying on the floor, maybe not understanding, especially when I watched a video of Bill Viola. I mean, I saw a 3-year-old kid going around, probably not understanding, but this affects your subconscious. And then in later years, it brings out different kind of, we can't say what, but I mean, it's definitely shaping your world. So this, especially for this, of course, you need more open-minded parents and a certain level of education. There are many Turkeys, as we call it, you know, more educated people, less educated. If we can take a fragment that probably would be your students, I think if they start late, John Berger's book is for me a very important book. The ways of seeing. I mean, because what you see is sometimes is not, I mean, you see different things, and when you look at things another time, you see other things because your eye is not maybe trained for seeing enough. So each time looking more and more to art objects, design objects, or the nature, but observing really creates this. Of course, because families are maybe more in this level educated in Europe and maybe also in Far East, some people, definitely in Japan, because crafts in India is so important. Many people are already educated in their vision because they love the crafts they are doing. In India, Gandhi has brought back their own textiles and taught them to produce their own textiles. And that's why since then, these people have been creating all these for saris, for their own clothing, amazing colors. And now they are one of the second strongest, I think, in textile, maybe even now first, I don't know, textile business. I think for this, we need sharpening or training our eye a lot. And mothers are needed to be trained to be able to continue with their children, to train their children. But I don't believe it's ever late, because you would get better, and you would definitely, if you start looking a lot, find other values for yourself in this field.